get it. তাই তো
হ্যালো স্যার স্যার আপনি কি রেজিস্ট্রেশন করেছিলেন স্যার? মাত্র দিছে দেখেন, একটু রিফ্রেশ দিলেই পাবেন। জ্যোতি স্যার শুনতে পাচ্ছেন? স্যার কি শুনতে পাচ্ছেন জ্যোতি স্যার?
না
স্যার আনমিউট করতে হবে, আনমিউট করতে হবে স্যার।
জ্যোতি স্যার
ওকে বিশ্বমশাই, গুড আফটারনুন।
ইয়েস গুড আফটারনুন। গুড আফটারনুন।
যুক্ত হলাম।
হ্যাঁ যুক্ত হয়েছেন, আমরাও যুক্ত হয়েছি। আপনারা সার্বক্ষণিক,
ক্যান ইউ হিয়ার মি?
আমি সার্বক্ষণিক থাকবো না।
আচ্ছা ইমানুয়েল শুনতে পাচ্ছি। হ্যাঁ
জি স্যার। Ari, can you hear me? Ari?
Yes, I'm here.
So let me introduce all our keynote speakers. We have with us our respected sir, Jyoti F. Gomez, and he's going to present the education keynotes. And we are having with us our Habib sir, Habib Rahman Khandokar. He will present the agriculture presentations or keynotes, and Mr. Golam Mainuddin, the digital management one. And we are also having with us our president, His Excellency, our most reverend Bishop James Shroman Boiraki. And you already know our director program, Mr. Shuklash. Hi, Jar. Good afternoon. Mr. Ghulam Mainuddin. This time
Welcome.
we are also having with us
Emmanuel, so greetings from Caritas Asia Regional Secretariat in Bangkok to everyone. Yes, Emmanuel, can you hear me?
Yes, please.
Yes, I think there is a nearby laptop just next to you who is running also the YouTube. So it keeps the sound is looping. So Emmanuel, so greetings from Caritas Asia Regional Secretariat in Bangkok to everyone. Is it there?
Yeah, I think someone is joining from two devices.
Okay. Is it okay now?
Yeah, I think.
Okay.
Now there is no echo. Otherwise, there is too much echo.
Okay.
So we are having only 4 minutes. Should we admit all our participants waiting in the lobby?
Yes, yeah. I think we should.
Before that, do you have any announcement for our speakers?
For me, I don't have right now. I think everything is well prepared. Also, thanks to you, Emmanuel, and also thank you for the support from Caritas Bangladesh team. So I think I will just turn off the waiting room, and then we'll let everyone to come in. Okay.
Okay. So all set.
Let me know if there is if I miss anyone to be appointed as a co-host for this meeting.
I think so. All the presentation will be presented by me. So I'm having all the presentation with me. Our ICT team will also started broadcasting the video in our Facebook page.
Okay.
So all set. So
okay.
Please admit all the people waiting in the lobby.
So I think Emmanuel, you can be also co-host.
Yeah, I'm already the co-host, sir. I think.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Bishop, good afternoon. Your Excellency.
Hello.
Good afternoon. How are you?
Hello, sir. Good afternoon.
I'm fine, and you?
I'm also.
Pallab bhai ঘামে গেছে
Manuel, I have not seen Aloysius John on the screen yet. Should we wait for a couple of minutes until he joins?
Let me communicate with him.
Okay. Let me know when it's ready to start, so that I can press record.
Caritas Asia.
প্রভু নমস্কার, আমি ডেভিড হামদম, কারিতাস রাজশাহী থেকে।
নমস্কার। পিঠার উৎপল তোমারটায় আমার ছবি আসতেছে কেন? আমার ছবি অবশ্য কর্নারে আছে এখানে।
যিশু প্রণাম বিশপ মহোদয়। পিটার উৎপল গমেজ দাদা ছিলেন অনলাইনেও, হঠাৎ করে ওনার লাইনটা কেটে গিয়েছেন, উনি আবার জয়েন হচ্ছেন।
যিশুতে প্রণাম।
আমরা মনে হয় শুরু করতে পারি। লেটস বিগিন।
Yeah, thank you, sir. Ari, Adriana just texted me that Aloysius is on his way and he'll join in a few minutes. So I think we can start.
Okay. Okay, great. Then, if you don't mind, Zar, if I call you first, if Aloysius is not there yet with us.
Sure, Ari, I'm ready. Oh, we start now?
Good afternoon, everyone. It's great to see you all today, and welcome to the Asia Regional Webinar, Caritas Bangladesh in Post-War Nation Building and Development, on the occasion of the Golden Jubilee of Caritas Bangladesh. We would like to welcome all participants here. We have around 50 people registered for this event, coming from Caritas members, organizations in different parts of Asia. We have Caritas Internationalis, Caritas Asia Regional Secretariat, including our Caritas Asia President, Dr. Benedict de Rosario here, and Caritas Global Partners, Caritas Bangladesh team and its network. Welcome. Today's webinar, the objectives are to share how Caritas Bangladesh shares love and service with the people of Bangladesh, to share the knowledge of Caritas Bangladesh in reaching out to most at-risk and hard-to-reach populations with education and youth development, food security and climate change adaptation, to share Caritas Bangladesh mastery in humanitarian response and building resilience and protecting displacement and human rights. We will hear today presentations from 3 speakers who will share about Caritas Bangladesh contributions in evolution of agriculture and environmental protection, food security, and adaptation to climate change in Bangladesh, disaster resilience for vulnerable people, and empowerment through education. We also would like to hear from you, your reactions and your comments in the question and answer sessions later on by turning on your microphone, or feel free to share your questions and feedback through the chat box. We'll make sure that we monitor the progress of the chat box regularly. Before we start, kindly be reminded to turn off your microphone if you're not speaking. The webinar is also being recorded for our documentation, and feel free to turn off your camera if you feel not comfortable or you don't wish to be recorded in the camera. Okay, now let's start with this webinar by listening to the messages. For the first message, we'd like to invite Mr. Zar Gomez, Caritas Asia Regional Coordinator, who are with us today. So Zar, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Ari. Your Excellency, Bishop James Roman Bairagai, the President of Caritas Bangladesh, our very own President for Caritas Asia, Dr. Benedict Alo de Rosario, Mr. Sebastian Rosario, the Executive Director of Caritas Bangladesh, dear friends in Caritas Bangladesh, and all who are here with us today. Hello and greetings to all of you. Once again, my name is Zar Gomez, and I am the Regional Coordinator of Caritas Asia. I speak here in the name of our Caritas family in our region, which consists of 25 national member organizations located in 24 countries in Asia, including, of course, Caritas Bangladesh. I also speak here carrying the best wishes of our regional president, Dr. Benedict Alo de Rosario, who is here as well in this webinar. And so today, we are very grateful to have your presence in this online event, which is jointly organized by Caritas Bangladesh and Caritas Asia, as part of the year-long celebration of the 50th anniversary of Caritas Bangladesh. We are really thankful that you could join us today because this is an opportunity for all of us to look back at the various experiences and achievements of Caritas Bangladesh in helping shape communities through the years, while also looking ahead into the next 50 years of Caritas Bangladesh. The theme of this online event is anchored on the post-war nation-building and development works of Caritas Bangladesh. So we will be learning more about their contributions in various fields, particularly on environmental protection, food security, climate change adaptation, emergency response, and many others. And as I said, while we're having this sharing, we are at the same time commemorating the 50 golden years of Caritas Bangladesh. As you know, being part of the family of Caritas Asia, Caritas Bangladesh has been very instrumental in the growth and evolution of our confederation and in bringing about a holistic human development among families, communities, and societies, not just in Bangladesh, but also in Asia, of course. I think many of us here can attest as to how very well Caritas Bangladesh has carried on its commitment and dedication to live and witness the gospel in the context of our region. And so this regional webinar is really not just any other webinars we have been organizing over the past 2 years, but it is also a commemoration and a celebration of everything else Caritas Bangladesh has done for the good of our Asian peoples and communities. We commend, of course, Caritas Bangladesh for their valuable contributions, and we give assurance of our continued prayers and best wishes for the many more things Caritas Bangladesh can do for our region. So on this note, I wish to share with you the greetings and felicitations of some of our church leaders in Asia. And I'm sure you'll be delighted to hear what they have to say for Caritas Bangladesh. So here they are. So if you can please give me a minute while I share my screen so that I can share with you these messages. are seeing the screen already. Can you please, can someone?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Yes, yes.
Thank you very much. Can you please
Dear Caritas Bangladesh,
say if you can hear?
congratulations, 50 years of service and
Yes, you
love.
can hear.
And we pray that the Lord will constantly bless you and make your ministry bear much fruit. God bless.
Good morning to all the co-workers, friends of Caritas Bangladesh. 4 or 5 years ago, I visited in the Cox's Bazar with you all, and I was very much impressed the way you were receiving the suffering people, especially the Rohingyas and all. Whenever I think of Caritas Bangladesh, even the foreigners were telling us in Myanmar, the organization, the movement, and the zeal that Caritas Bangladesh is having. They are telling us to imitate Bangladesh Caritas. Now, we are very grateful in spite of the many natural disaster and some of man-made disaster. You are going ahead with your works and the charitable works. Now, please do continue with a good, right intention of helping others, seeing in them the face of Jesus. We are all brothers and sisters. Thank you very much, and hope to visit you soon. Thank you.
I congratulate the members of the Caritas Bangladesh and those who are supporting the Caritas Bangladesh for the Golden Jubilee of the establishment. We know that Caritas Bangladesh has been enormously contributing the development of the country, Bangladesh, and also supporting so many people, those who are vulnerable. I hope that the Holy Spirit will guide you, continue for next centenary celebration, that you will really aspire to be a great organization in Bangladesh. So congratulations.
There you have them. These are some of our leaders. I did not put all, but you will see more during the closing event in the next 2 weeks, I think. So let me end by saying that I would like to take this opportunity to express once again our gratitude and appreciation to all of you for taking part in this important event. May you all find meaningful lessons and useful stories in this webinar. So thank you very much and welcome, and thank you again for your presence. Thank you. Back to you, Ari.
Thank you very much, Zar, for that message, and also for taking time to go after the bishops during the FABC meeting here in Bangkok. The next up, I think I just received a message from Emmanuel that Aloysius John is here. Welcome, Aloysius John. And for the next message, we'll hear from Aloysius John, the Caritas International Secretary General. The floor is yours, Aloysius.
Thank you, Ari. Do you hear me?
Yes, it's audible.
Yeah. Thank you, and I'm sorry for being late. I thought it was 10, but now I realized we changed the time in Europe. So it's 9:15, but now I understand. First of all, my excuses for being late, and I would just like to share 3 points on this important moment of Caritas Bangladesh 50th anniversary. Caritas Bangladesh has been journeying with the poor since the aftermath of the War of Liberation. It has grown from Caritas, a service-oriented organization which was supporting the poorest, widows, children, and also people who lost everything during the War of Liberation, to become what it is today. It is a full-fledged organization of the Bishops' Conference of Bangladesh, Church of Bangladesh, witnessing the love and care of the international community, of the universal church, and bringing it to the poorest without any distinction of caste, religion, or whatever. It's a human person who is the focal point of the intervention of Caritas Bangladesh. I would like to highlight just 3 important points which are retained in these 50 years. I've known Caritas Bangladesh for the past 30 years, and I retain 3 important points which I learned during these 30 years. First of all, Caritas Bangladesh during these 50 years has been journeying with the poorest. journeying with the poorest is not so easy, but Caritas was able to do this, getting to their level and being with them, take them forward to the path to the destiny of human dignity. The second important point I retained from Caritas Bangladesh during these 30 years is Caritas has been fighting for the dignity of the poorest, especially the poor farmers, those who are affected by regular floods and other natural calamities. And in the Bandarban region, where with the indigenous people were really affected, Caritas was with them. And I was able to go to the Bandarban area to see what Caritas was doing 30 years back. So Caritas has been fighting for the dignity of the poorest. And the third important point, which I retain from these 30 years of experience with Caritas and these 50 years of doing experience of Caritas Bangladesh and my 30 years of experience with Caritas Bangladesh, is caring and defending for the poorest and accompanying them. Pope Francis always reminds us that our mission is to care, defend, and accompany the poor, and Caritas has been doing this. This has been a wonderful experience, and one real experience in which I was personally involved was a feeder school at that time, which became UPEP, and today it is really producing results where people from the partners group are able to take their responsibility and live as individuals, as human beings. I thank Caritas Bangladesh for this wonderful work which you are doing. The Confederation is very proud of you, and we are sure that we will continue, and you will still continue to be an organization of the Universal Church and an organization of the local church, the particular church, to be an instrument of dialogue with all the communities. An instrument of dialogue when there is lots of division all over the world, you, through the work of charity, you're building bridges between the communities. I also want to thank Caritas Bangladesh for the wonderful work you're doing for the Rohingya communities, which is becoming a forgotten crisis, but you are reminding us people are still suffering. We have to do something. And we are taking care of the people, not based on their nationalities or the religions or the other belongingness, but on one simple conviction that they're all human beings. I thank you very much for this great experience. And also thank you very much for having allowed me to journey with you during these 30 years. I learned a lot. Thank you. I wish you another 50 years of wonderful work and wonderful mission for the Church of Caritas, for the Church of Bangladesh, and also for the people whom we serve. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Aloysius John, for that wonderful message. Thank you. And we join you in thanking also Caritas Bangladesh for their work. Finally, we would like to invite Caritas Bangladesh President, Bishop James Roman Boiragi, for his message. Bishop, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you very much. So, dearest Caritas family members, what is that? Excuse me. On behalf of Caritas Bangladesh, I welcome all of you to the regional webinar of Caritas Asia on the theme Caritas Bangladesh in post-war nation building and development. We are grateful to all of you for allocating your precious time to listen to us. Caritas Bangladesh has been celebrating its 50 years of journey, Golden Jubilee, with the theme Caritas Bangladesh 50 years journey with love and service. With a grateful heart, we thank Almighty for the abundant blessing upon us, Caritas Bangladesh, over the last 50 years of fruitful service to society. Since the world's deadliest tropical cyclone on record, Cyclone Vola, in 1970, and the Liberation War of Bangladesh, as a social wing of Caritas Bangladesh Catholic Church, Caritas has always been beside the most affected and vulnerable community and committed to continue its service in the future. In this blessing year of Caritas Bangladesh, I remember the legacy of Caritas, which has taken the great initiative to bring the love of Christ to the poor of affected people. Then meaningful support from the dedicated team of the Caritas family around the world made the organization a part of community life. Jubilee is looked back and looking forward. According to the spirit of Jubilee, seen in the book of Leviticus, it is an occasion of remembrance of the past events, of repentance of the faults committed, of redemption of what is lost, of return to the spirit of founder, to the family, of rejoicing for the graces received, of reception of the freedom of the children of God, of recognition of God's mercy towards his people, and of rededication, looking forward for making the kingdom of God at hand. Despite all the development progress made in past 70 years by Caritas family around the world, there are still millions of people around the world who die each year because they are too poor to stay alive. Most live in fragile situation, often wrecked by conflict, disasters, and famine. Their need to continue the effort in the coming days, although that is not desirable. Caritas Bangladesh, as a member of CI network, has always been at the forefront to support disaster-affected people with emergency life-saving assistance. Beside emergency assistance, it has also kept a significant contribution to empowering the community through education. The three keynote presentation will help us understand the impact of Caritas works in the last 5 decades. This will also help us evaluate our work and will support us in planning to meet the crisis in the coming year. At Caritas, employees do not work but serve. They take the message of love and hope to people on behalf of the church. So this work should be accepted not from any professional point of view, but from the point of view of love and service. In the Synodal Church's line of thought, Caritas service should be brought to the people at a more marginal level. The current state of the world will always concern us, but we must speak up for justice and for the oppressed. We need to be more careful that our roles and work changes people's life. Underdeveloped and developing countries affected by the power struggle and unrest in various places may face more famines in the days to come. People in need will be more troubled. We must always be ambassador of peace, spreading the light of hope in the midst of all suffering. I personally wish you, all of you, a good future and to have a good meeting. And please remember you in your prayers that Bangladesh people can survive in a good way. Thank you very much for listening us.
Thank you very much, Bishop, for that lovely message. Next, I would like to hand over this floor to Mr. Suklesh George Costa, the Director of Program of Caritas Bangladesh, who will take us into the next sessions. Suklesh, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you, Ari. Respected all, without addressing individual, I welcome all of you to our three keynotes presentation. You all are aware that we are celebrating our 50 years journey together. And 50 years back, Bangladesh was called a bottomless basket. But within this last 50 years, with efforts of government and other development agencies, Bangladesh is now middle income country. And this is possible because of government and other development agencies. And we strongly believe that Caritas Bangladesh is one of the part of among these organizations. And while we were observing Golden Jubilee, we are also trying to find out what are our contribution to nation building or to development of Bangladesh. And while we tried, then we given few people to see back that what is our contribution for nation building. And we gathered many more information. In today's session, we are going to share with you three keynotes, particularly on our contribution regards to agriculture and environment protections and food security and adaptation to climate change, as well as disaster resilience for the vulnerable people and empowering through education. Three skill, experience, and expertise renowned persons were involved in this process, who has gathered several informations, and they are going to share their views, what is our contribution regards to particular three sectors. So this is the time I'd like to welcome Dr. Habibur Rahman Khandokar, who is lead consultant of Dream Consultancy Limited. He has tried to go back all of our documents, what is our contribution regards to agriculture and environment protection, food security, and adaptation to climate change. And he is also a very renowned person in Bangladesh. So I kindly request Dr. Habibur Rahman, please share your keynotes to our participants. Floor is now yours. We remember that you will get 20 minutes time for presentations, and after that, we'll go for question and answer sessions. So the participants, you are cordially requested to keep your notes after presentation so that we can go for question and answer sessions. Thank you, and the floor is Dr. Habibur Rahman Khandokar.
Thank you. Welcome you all in the Asian Regional Webinar organized by Caritas Bangladesh. Good afternoon. So my presentation will be on the contribution of Caritas Bangladesh in the evaluation of agriculture and environmental protection, food security, and adaptation to climate change in Bangladesh. We have prepared a report and we did a study under our research program. And on that basis, I am going to present my presentation in a brief. If we look the activities, sorry, I can put off my camera. So there are different hubs, different offices around the country, but for our study, we have considered some specific ecological areas like the saline-prone area, tidal area, then drought-prone area, hill areas like that. On that basis, we have prepared the paper. We reviewed all the literatures, reports, which is available readily, and also we have organized several FGD, KIA in-depth interview with the beneficiary groups and also the people working with the Caritas. So during the Caritas Golden Jubilee, it is also 50 years of Bangladesh independence. So we are now celebrating both together. It is a good opportunity for Bangladesh. Next, please. So Caritas is working since 1970, as mentioned by earlier speakers. But in 1970, it was mostly with the Christian Organization for Relief and Rehabilitation, and they start huge work in the rehabilitation of the cyclone affected areas. And onward, after liberation, Caritas Bangladesh also take over all the activities. And what we got, that to rehabilitate the plowing, around 21 power tillers, 4 tractors, even 770 bull were procured and engaged in the plowing to help the farmer. And also in food distribution, they make 235 tons of rice seed and 8.6 tons of fertilizer were also distributed, and also supported with some insecticide and pesticide control measures. Besides, over 50 years, cooperatives were organized, including 150 fishermen's group. Next, please. Immediately after liberation, as you know, most of the people, they left the country, mainly the fishermen and many other the people who were staying in the vulnerable areas. However, after returning back, they don't have any property to any facilities to start their work. During that period, for the fishing community rehabilitation in 1972, the rehabilitation program was started by Caritas and Co. And around 2098, artisanal fishing boats and around 877 tons of nets were distributed among the fishermen. And also they helped to maintain their marketing process and all this. So there was a huge rehabilitation program. This is only for rehabilitation, and onward, Caritas started development of agriculture programs. And for this, Caritas Bangladesh beneficiary reached in the left side, you can see that how much we have reached. And in the agriculture, immediately in the first decade, there was a huge work was done, and gradually it was not agriculture is not mean only the agriculture, it is integrated agriculture, fisheries, livestock, and also ecological conservation. And this program is also going on in different areas. So Bangladesh is immersed in the agriculture sector gradually. Now they achieve different position in the global position on the production, like potato, and tea production, mango production. You can see some figure in the right side of the slide, and all this has been achieved, but it was pioneered by Caritas Bangladesh, what we got from the field and from our review study. The potato have reached a big amount in Bangladesh. Now Bangladesh is exporting. Fisheries sector, Bangladesh also producing, and now it's self-sufficient. So many sectors, Bangladesh has achieved a good result. And it was pioneered initially by Caritas. As you see, in the initial stage, several equipments, pump machine, all this was distributed through different projects. And also, initially, fishers were supported with hatchlings, hatchery management, all this. And now we have good achievement in the fisheries production and all this. However, and for recognition of the Caritas activities in the field for hillshire production and all other conservation measures in the freshwater, and also in coastal area for shrimp farming, shrimp aquaculture development, Caritas was awarded with a medal, gold medal from Ministry of Fisheries and Livestock during 2004 for its contribution in the fisheries development and extension. It is a big award, I should say, for an organization. And next please. So if we consider other successes, then we see there is a big success with the introduction of potato, good nice variety in Bangladesh, and it started immediately after liberation, that is in 1972. Caritas bring the potato and they demonstrated in some areas, and finally it was expanded in all over the country. And gradually, in the beginning, the support was big, and gradually it is going down, and now farmers have their own resources and they can grow, they can export the potato. Next, please. There is another achievement in the green revolution, mostly in the northern region, but the drought was prevailing. So Caritas Bangladesh was working on that gradually. And in 1986, Caritas Bangladesh has embarked on a massive tree plantation. And in the right side, you can see some nursery, as a nursery man is there. So Caritas has developed several nurseries along the North Bengal, and they also developed a nursery farm, which is handed over to the Department of Agriculture Assistance. And all this program was supported by many donors, and still the green work or green expansion is continuing with Caritas, and also other participants engaged. But initially, Caritas has shown the activities in the field. Next, please. And regarding the women empowerment, Caritas is empowered women, as women are more than 50 to 60% workforce. And the women leaders are growing. Caritas is organizing many women groups in the agriculture production and climate things or the ecological protection things. And we met several people in the field, the leaders, women leaders, who are working and organizing in the village level in conserving the local seeds, local plants, local fruits, and also conserving their resources, motivating others. And we came to know that one storing facility, that is Rakka Gola, we call that the crop stored facilities they have developed, and during harvest they put their excess crop, a portion of the crop, and during the bad situation when they have no crop or no money, at that time they can also borrow the crop from or pay it from that store. And also we saw in the homestead, most of the women, they are doing the plantation or vegetable growing, that is the backyard agriculture, we can say, and they are profited a lot. And also we saw some tribal community, they organized women who have no work earlier, but now they get the work in the agriculture sector, and they are producing their own food and also some fruits for marketing, local market. And they are now self-sufficient and earning some money, and their voice is raised. So women community are very actively developed, mainly in the ethnic and tribal groups, as mentioned earlier with some presenters mentioned that in that area, Caritas have worked a lot. Please, next. And climate effects and mitigation and adaptation. This is another area where there is a tremendous achievement by Caritas, and they show the way that how it can be go. And now many other organizations, they came, government also gets some program. I should mention that government have some program with Caritas for on this sector, mainly the forest department or environment ministry, even the fisheries and livestock ministry. They have some program, joint program to address the climate problems. In the we can show you some. There are some pictures that in the left, there is a waste management program Caritas is organized in Khulna area, and we in Borishal area we saw a union parishad, the local government. They are involved in the plantation, and they make their area green, and he has been awarded, and he first trained by the Caritas, and Caritas was insist to go start with the herbal plants, and he is doing that. And another woman, he is just collecting the waste papers and making the packaging material for the local market. And he is directly participating in cleaning this area. And another one we saw that some religious people, they are also involved with Caritas activities, and there is some program where the disabled people bring together, and some drug addicted people are also addressed, and they have been employed in the agriculture sector, and that now they are just doing very good in their production and improve their livelihood. Next, please. Besides, Caritas has a big or important role in the research also. They are supporting the research program along with many academia, research institutes, and also departments. What we saw, they have the collaboration with some research institutions, what we call Nurse Research Institute in Bangladesh, this rice research, then agriculture research, potato, then cotton, different type of research they have conducted, partners. And also they have some program with academia and universities, mainly Agriculture University, Rashtra University, Design University, all those. And some good program with Soil Research Department, Soil Research Development Institutes. And also Caritas was awarding some education programs like PhD and MSc with the support of the donor projects. And also we saw there are some fellowship at home and abroad, that is the visit to other countries or exposed to local other success stories areas. They are organizing with the project. And in the strategic direction, Caritas has did a lot, and they always follow the national policies, national programs, and on that basis they are going, and still there is a scope on improvement of the activities following the national agriculture policy. Recently added 2 new things, and national fisheries policy also have new things too. I will tell you later. And national livestock policy, national environment policy, and Bangladesh Delta Plan. Recently Bangladesh has launched. It was combined all the policies together, and also there are some international agriculture policy. So Caritas is on the right track and doing, and accordingly they are submitting the projects and implementing the projects in the agriculture sector, and now they have some good scope to work with other activities. So I like to show you the recommendation. Next slide please. That landowners engagement in cluster farming approach, it should be like that, because in our Bangladesh our farmers are very small, so they should be organized together, and the community marketing system should be developed, and for this Caritas can work. Agro production, product grower can easily market their product. Now they cannot, so there should be a market driven activities. Then branding and agro product and agro input, it can be another sector for development. Besides, food processing can be addressed, and there are some others, but I should forget. The one thing Caritas should do immediately the develop manpower in the agricultural sector. The trained manpower, skilled manpower. So Caritas should do it, and I hope they can use their existing training centers and they can do it. So with this view, I like to thank you. Thank you because the time is constrained. So thank you all for hearing me.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Habibur Rahman Khandokar, for your excellent presentation for contribution of Caritas Bangladesh in the field of agriculture, environment protection, food security, and climate change adaptation. We believe that this is only the snapshot of our interventions. Because of time limit, you have shared only the highlighted one. So thank you very much for sharing excellent presentation for your valuable keynotes. Now, floor is open for the participants. I like to request participants, if you have any question, please raise your question and you can ask to our keynote speaker what he has presented or what you are thinking. So floor is for the participants. If anyone like to ask question, you are requested to raise your hand. Okay, already I have seen that one participant, Mr. Kamal Gandhi, has raised his hand. So Mr. Kamal Gandhi, you are requested to raise your question.
Thank you very much. I am Kamilus Kamal Gandhi, responsible for development of indigenous people sector. I don't have any questions, just to add with that presentation, very good presentations. So in this slide, I have seen that what's a women in the slide of women empowerment, where I like to request to include that Caritas Bangladesh has been working for 54 types of indigenous communities. So it is a kind request, and the successful thing is, the major successful is Caritas Bangladesh has could able to strengthen around 1,000 traditional social organizations, as well as cooperative credit union for their financial sustainability. This is for kind information. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kamal Gandhi, for your feedback. We have seen that Mr. Bikash Biswas has raised his hand. So, Mr. Bikash, you are requested to raise your question or share your feedback.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for nice presentation from Habibur sir. So I don't have actually no questions, but I would like to add one thing, that just in the part of research support, in this case, we had some agreement, and we also ordered some works with the BUET and also PSTU, Patuakhali Science and Technology University, Khulna University. So I think we can add these renowned institutions. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Bikash, for your feedback and inputs. So I didn't see any hands. So I like to go for next keynote presentation. Our next keynote presenter is Mohammad Ghulam Mainuddin, who is the coordinator of our Caritas Development Institute, CDI. He will share in his keynotes on Caritas Bangladesh in the field of disaster resilience for vulnerable people. So I am kindly requesting Mr. Ghulam Mainuddin to share your keynotes.
Thank you. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to present this presentation. I hope all of you can hear me.
Yes, you are audible.
Yeah. Good afternoon and welcome all the respected audience from Caritas Asia and other part of the globe on presentation on Caritas Bangladesh in post-war nation building and development in the context of Caritas' contribution to the field of disaster resilience for the vulnerable poor people. Caritas Bangladesh was founded in 1967 as the eastern branch of Caritas Pakistan following Cyclone Bola on November 1970. Its initial operation was started by local church bodies, while the churches was operationalized as Chattogram Organization for Relief and Development, through which relief supports were channeled for cyclone-affected people. But when Caritas Internationalis and other Catholic agencies generously offered financial assistance on a large scale in January 1971, it reorganized by 4 bishops as core Christian Organization for Relief and Rehabilitation for working in the cyclone and liberation war-affected people. Taking on the character of national organization on January 13, 1971, Caritas took part in post-war rehabilitation and development interventions with the newly formed government of Bangladesh and few other humanitarian actors. The name Caritas was reintroduced in 1976. 1970 to 1973, CORE mostly focused on relief and rehabilitation for the cyclone and war-affected populations through 3 emergency projects for cyclone-affected people and 55 emergency response project and cash support for 400,000 families for the population under post-war rehabilitation program. In 1973, completed all relief and rehabilitation programs and stepped into development, nature, rehabilitation, and reconstruction phases. And an emergency disaster relief commission was set up for emergency measures. In 1973 to 74, CORE started to focus the development programs in the areas of agriculture, fisheries, education, agriculture workshop, handicrafts and jutes work, and health, keeping aside all relief and rehabilitation programs. In 1974, CORE started development activities following severe floods affected both summer and autumn rice crops. Food shortage guided CORE to carry on vigorous program of disaster relief to help alleviate the miserable condition of large number of population, and separate emergency section was set up in this regard. In April 1975, CORE set up a separate welfare section to manage all these activities. In 1990s, government of Bangladesh transformed a relief-oriented reactive approach to a DRR-oriented proactive approach in disaster risk management. In April 1999, the welfare department transformed into disaster management department. Then disaster preparedness and risk reduction was added with high importance side by side of disaster response and recovery programs. In July 2014, through second strategic plan of Caritas Bangladesh, DMD department, disaster management and development department become one of the sectors as disaster management out of 6 to achieve the goal 4. Then CORE offered all-round rehabilitation program comprises with road repair and construction, hydraulic works, agriculture, housing, cluster village with cyclone shelter, and cooperatives through 3 cyclone projects in collaboration with various government departments of Bangladesh. Most of the activities has been started in January 1971, but encountered much graver obstacles due to the independence war of March to December 1971 and non-availability of house building materials like corrugated iron sheets, reinforced cement, concrete pillar, etc. In April 1971, it becomes apparent that there was a massive problem in communication and transportation for relief and rehabilitation works for the people who were looted and burned out by the military of Pakistan. The CORE director was shot twice and 72 shots were fired at the code motor launches during wartime execution of 3 cyclone projects. Despite such a war situation, Corps has continued its relief and rehabilitation operations for the disaster and war victim populations during wartime. At a glance, project implemented by the DM sector over the past 50 years, Caritas has implemented 129 emergency relief, recovery, and rehabilitation projects throughout the country, where 30.8 million people were covered. A total of 15 types of 111 disaster events have been responded by the support from 94 donors, including Caritas Internationalis, member organization, INGOs, institutional and UN agencies, private and church-based donor agencies like this. COVID-19 response, approximate 100,000 households were covered through 41 existing and 24 new COVID-19 response projects. 1.4 million individuals were reached with COVID-19 hygiene awareness through different modes and means. Refugee response, it's about 0.47 million individuals of Rohingya and the host community were reached. Post-war relief and rehabilitation program. Post-war, immediate after the war, Caritas, then Corps, was started post-war housing program under the post-war rehabilitation, relief and rehabilitation program. During the decade of independence, Corps Caritas contributed to the rebuilding of a war-torn new nation like Bangladesh by building and repairing of 0.59 million houses for a population of 5.03 million. However, over the past 50 years, Caritas provided a total of 0.81 million low-cost houses for 6.15 million populations. Among the 0.59 million houses, which is about 32.37% of 1.56 million destroyed and burnt houses, according to UN reports throughout Bangladesh during the war were built for liberation war victims under post-war housing program. Post-war cyclone and flood shelter program. Corps Caritas jointly with Bangladesh Christian Council under the title of Caritas Relief Organization, CRO, started construction of cyclone shelter in 1971. There were built Corps Caritas during the wartime 9 cyclone shelters in 1971. These cyclone shelters are the first ever cyclone shelters built alone by Caritas Bangladesh with the assistance of Caritas Internationalis and other Catholic agencies in independent Bangladesh. Following the government plan to construct 12,500 cyclone shelters, Caritas has set up a cyclone cell in 1991 following the devastating cyclone Gorky for construction of multi-purpose cyclone shelters construction program. Over the past 50 years, Caritas constructed a total of 255 cyclone shelters for 0.868 million populations and 74 flood shelters for 0.21 million populations, including 613 raised earthen for playground and killers for livestock and other assets safety, and 357 community centers. Caritas Bangladesh's cyclone shelter program has contributed to reduction of fatalities by 5.48% out of 75% reduction of fatalities through government cyclone shelter program. So here is Caritas contribution is 5.48%. Corps prefers to make work available to the adult men so that they can earn money to buy food, and hence most of Corps programs had moved beyond the relief phase and into rehabilitation phase. 300,000 men and women being given paid work under test relief work for survive. Simultaneously, under the test relief work and rural works program, Caritas contributed to rebuild the new nation in the context of disaster through construction, repair, and housing material support for low-cost house, construction and repair of roads, bridges, culverts and embankments, dams, excavation and re-excavation of ponds, canals, drains in the very high disaster and economic vulnerable areas. Development interventions have contributed to building disaster resilience and rebuild post-war new nations in 1971 to 79. If we consider the post-war immediate after the war, so we can consider the post-war decade. So in the decade of liberation war, there are 2,598 roads were constructed and repaired by Caritas Bangladesh, while so far over the past 50 years, there are 9,247 roads were constructed and repaired. There are, in the decade of the liberation war, there are 482 bridges and 302 culverts. And over the past 50 years, there are 698 bridges were constructed, 4,006 culverts were constructed, and 179 embankments, dams were constructed and repaired. There are 336 canals and drains were excavated and re-excavated, while 67 252 canals and drains were excavated and re-excavated during the liberation, during the decade of liberation war. Next, please. The contribution of Caritas, what has changed, or what is the contribution of building or repair of roads, bridges and culverts? We calculated based on the constant price and the current price. We explored the differences that made due to the construction and repair of roads, bridges and culverts. So it was found that there are crop production increased by 25%, wealth level scope has created 17%, livestock poultry increased by 15%, pisciculture increased by 19%, other businesses were increased 19%, transport services were increased the highest 34%, services 16%, and in average in all the areas it was 21% increase. Next, please. Due to the intervention of post-war intervention of roads, bridges and culverts, the growth of business sector found agriculture sector was the highest, close to 60%, largely increase of growth sector, and then small businesses and other area also increase moderate to lower level of increases in the growth center. The contribution of Caritas in the post-war disaster resilience and economic development through excavation and re-excavation of canals and drains. Total irrigation cover is 14,000 hectares in 1970s through 252 canals and drains, while over the past 50 years, total irrigation cover is found more than 54,000 hectares from a total of 336 canals and drains, excavation and re-excavation. 0.55 million tons rice were harvested during the post-war rehabilitation period of 1970s, while over the past 50 years, there are 11.51 million tons rice were harvested due to the intervention of excavation and re-excavation of canals and drains. About 27.30% of land comes under the coverage of 3 crops instead of 1 or 2 crops due to excavation and re-excavation of the canals and drains. A total of 2.26 million out of total of 25.87 million livestock population gets fresh drinking water for survival during the dry season from canals excavation and re-excavated by Caritas Bangladesh. 69.17% household suffer from highly waterlogging, while it appears that despite heavy monsoon and recurrent floods, about 67.80% of the houses and other assets were protected by means of affecting at a very low level of waterlogging due to improvement of drainage system. Next, please. The contribution of Caritas in post-war economic development through excavation and re-excavation of ponds and tanks. So there are in total irrigation coverage for rice through the pond water irrigation found 6,636 hectare. Winter vegetables irrigation coverage found 3,708 hectares, and homestead gardening 1,430 hectares. In 1970s, the 287 tons of rice were harvested, and winter vegetables 56.61 million worth of BDT, and homestead gardening worth of BDT 44 million during the post-war rehabilitation, although here is mentioned over the past 50 years. In 1970s, fish production increased by 70.76%, while the pond owners have produced variety of fish worth of BDT 7.9 million out of 1,121.2 million over the past 50 years. A total of 0.21 million population and 0.02 million livestock were able to get access of fresh water from these ponds in the dry season. 0.32 million hectares cropped area protected from flooding and salinity intrusion, where about 0.44 million tons of rice has been produced by the farmers during the post-war rehabilitation period of 1970s. In late 90s, Caritas Bangladesh, in line with the government plan of reactive-based intervention to proactive intervention. So in the late 90s, Caritas Bangladesh also introduced a proactive initiative in terms of DRR and climate change mitigation programs. 36 DRR projects covering more than 1.44 million people capacitated with DRR inputs, assisted and facilitated 2,493 ward disaster management committees, 4 slum management committees, and 2,749 task force. They have strong coordination with 277 union disaster management committees, assisted to 277 union disaster management committees in conduction of CRAs and following risk reduction action plans. 400 mock drills have been conducted at unions and ward levels on firefighting, search and rescue, early warning during the last 2 decades. Caritas was one of the influential actors in Bangladesh that advocated in inclusion of ward disaster management committees and local traditional leaders in Chittagong hill treks and other parts of Bangladesh in last amendment of Standing Order on Disaster of Government of Bangladesh. Post-war structural development in nation building in the context of disaster, it was found that over the past 50 years, the majority structural intervention were provided in the first 3 decades, and later, while late 90s, Caritas started proactive DRR activities. Then it increased the non-structural initiatives. So it clearly shows that the dimension, the transformation of structural intervention into non-structural intervention. It's a decrease of structural intervention from the first decades to the 5th decades, and increase from the non-structural proactive initiative from the late 90s to the last 2 decades. Next, please. We tried to explore the post-war community resilience to disaster. So what is the level we could reach the resilience of the community? So resilience is not static, rather it fluctuates over time, especially after the disaster event, because it encompasses the way that an individual responds to a variety of circumstances over time. So it found that infrastructure development, there are 5 elements were covered. to create the composite rating of post-war community resilience to disaster. So infrastructure development to hazard mitigation found the highest 4.13 out of 5 it scored, and second highest found emergency response, third highest disaster recovery, social and economy, it's 3.06, resource management 2.88. So there is a huge scope to create or develop community resilience in the areas of social and economy, disaster recovery, and resource management. Next, please. Some statement from the coastal areas in the southern part. The local stakeholder said that over the past 50 years, Caritas disaster preparedness, prevention, and mitigation activities have played a 50% contribution in capacity building of the communities living the disaster-prone areas, and the remaining 50% have been through the government of Bangladesh and other non-government initiatives. And another, in the northern part of our country, the local stakeholder said that the economic and social development of the area began with the construction and repair of the bridges, culverts, and roads by Caritas, especially for the access to the wholesale marketplaces, for marketing of agricultural produce and livestock, availability of agricultural machineries, the expansion of various business and access to public health services, children's educational institutions, and other resource centers because of construction of roads, bridges, and culverts. Next, please. So recommendations, the strong footprints and leadership is essential in future intervention of whatever it is reactive mitigation and prevention activities, or the proactive soft skill related DRR activities. Complete and commanding policies, strategies, and guidelines for disaster management department of Caritas, DRR, and climate change. Inclusive programs for climate migrants, as it does very severe prediction that explore in different research papers that the coastal people internal migration will be huge in the, over the upcoming 50 years. So inclusive program for climate migrants and disaster-induced internal displaced people, it is essential in future programs of Caritas Bangladesh. Utilization of technologies for forecast-based early warning, message dissemination, response, early actions, anticipatory action programs, etc. By using GIS, apps, device software, graphics design, etc. Established and well-organized knowledge management system need to be established in Caritas, considering the factors of future climate phenomenon, and an integrated multi-hazard mitigation and proactive DRR approach need to be taken place for resilience to disaster in line with the National Plan for Disaster Management, HOGO framework, Sendai framework, and other policies that adopted by government of Bangladesh. Construction of cyclone shelters. More cyclone shelters at the village level should be built, or at least one RCC room of the houses of vulnerable families, which may be treated as cyclone and flood resistant private housing should be built. Some experimental climate resilient houses were built accommodating approximate 40 to 50 people and their livestock as mini cyclone shelters by different NGOs, which is almost similar design that Caritas introduced in 1971, 1972. 38.46% of the cyclone shelters are required to maintenance and refurbishment. Especially the utility services is very much poor at this at present, and 15.38% of the cyclone shelters are highly required to immediate attention and to maintenance and refurbishment work to make accessible for the people. Enhance disaster knowledge. All the areas of disaster and climate change related knowledge need to be increased for local people's capacity building and the first responder at the local level. Re-excavation of the silted up canals and ponds every 6 to 7 years interval, including coastal afforestation and social afforestation, is essential for mitigative and preventive measures to reduce disaster risk. There is a high concern of freshwater availability in future. That is why it is required to freshwater availability through installation of tube well or the water reservoir need to be excavation and re-excavation in future programs. Research is the key elements of development. There is a lack of financing investment in research regarding identification of thrust areas to achieve objectives. Research studies are needed in this field to better inform decision-making of different stakeholders working in providing and financing services in humanitarian crises. Caritas Bangladesh conducted some nearly 8 to 10 researches in different issues like housing models. There are 35 housing model, multi-hazard consideration with the collaboration of Bangladesh Engineering Institute of Technology, BUET, and other areas also. Caritas already conducted, but many more research is essential to decision-making of different stakeholder work in the providing and financing services in humanitarian crisis. A revised curricula at different level of education so that the future citizens are better prepared to serve, having proper knowledge based, need to be advocate and develop curricula and the materials also is essential in future program. Partnership, already Caritas have some partners, joint ventures with research institution, universities, private sector, religious institution, and government department and ministries, but need more collaboration and joint venture program need to be initiated in future for reduced disaster and climate change risk. These are the few of recommendation out of there is a lot of recommendations but the key areas of like this. Thanks for this time.
Thank you, Ghulam Mainuddin, for your keynote presentation on the contribution of Caritas Bangladesh in the field of disaster resilience for vulnerable communities or vulnerable peoples. We all are aware that Caritas Bangladesh started its interventions through disaster response, and we have many more experience. We have vast experience, and we are working in different areas of Bangladesh. So this is the summary of what we have done during last 5 decades, as well as few impacts. So thank you again for sharing the keynote of Ghulam Mainuddin. So now we'd like to go to the participants. If you have any specific question or recommendations, you are cordially requested to raise your hands and participate. Floor is yours. So far, I didn't see any hand. So if you allow, we can go for third keynote. Okay, we have seen one raise, Mr. Dawood Jivan Das. So you are requested to raise your question or share your feedback.
Just one point to add. 127 sluice gates were established by Caritas Bangladesh in the coastal areas, especially in Khulna, Bagherat, and Satkira, for fish farming, river water management, and so on. So I would like to request to add that of intervention. And also a recommendation that a small is beautiful, but scaling up is needed. An integrated program, especially lots of intervention has been made under disaster management. So scaling up is needed for future. This is a recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dawood Jivan Das, for your recommendations and feedback. So I have seen that another hand is from Mr. Francis Bepari. Mr. Francis Bepari, you are requested to share your question or feedback.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity. I am giving thanks to Ghulam Mainuddin for his nice presentation for the keynotes. And I request to add one point. Caritas Bangladesh also constructed some sustainable dike to keep the vulnerable people safe from river erosion and heavy rainfall near the riverside. It is very important activities, so it may be added with the presentation. And another point is that Caritas also has implemented some years for capitation grant fund to develop the orphanage for house building and their education, like this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Francis Bepari, for your suggestions. I have seen that another hand raising. Mr. Jyoti Gomez, you are now, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you. I just want to say, to add that Caritas Bangladesh is also responding in the urban disasters. So in the history of urban disaster, there were two main incident or accident, that is Tazrin Fashion and Rana Plaza building collapse. Tazrin Fashion, the fire accident, and Rana Plaza building collapse. In these two devastating disaster, Caritas Bangladesh has huge intervention. To help the victims, at the time of disaster and the following years. Still, we are with the affected families and their children. So these two cases could be included in the report. This is my opinion. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Jyoti Gomez, for your suggestions. And now I'd like to go Mr. Ratan Poddar.
Yes, thank you. I would like to actually add one point, that is, we are we have, as a Caritas, we have much experience for disaster management. So we contributed and also contributing home and abroad, even for Bangladesh government, for that is development of guidelines, especially if you say shelter guideline. Caritas Bangladesh contributed a lot, and also for the clusters. Any type of guideline or strategy when prepared for the cluster, Caritas actually, the role of Caritas is vital to that forum. And if I say internationally, I can remember that the disaster management, the shelter guideline for Caritas Asia, 2 members worked from Caritas Bangladesh. And also from Caritas Bangladesh, for the CI Shelter and Settlement Working Group, the 2 members are working for that group also. So there is a scope for cross-learning, and also contributing through our experience. This is for information, and if it is possible to insert in the report, I think it will be better. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ratan Poddar, for your valuable inputs. I don't know, I have seen, okay. Okay, so because I was observing that hand is still raising of Mr. Jyoti Gomez, but now he has lowered down. So I didn't see any hand. So we can go for next keynote presentation. Our next keynote presentation is on contribution of Caritas Bangladesh for empowerment through education. And this keynote will be shared by Mr. Jyoti Gomez, who is Secretary General of Bangladesh Catholic Education Board and Administrator of St. Joseph's International School, Dhaka. He is also our former director. So now I would like to request Jyoti sir to share your keynotes on contribution of Caritas Bangladesh for empowerment through education.
Dear Greater Caritas family members, Golden Jubilee greetings from Caritas Bangladesh. As you heard that I am supposed to highlight contribution of Caritas Bangladesh for empowerment through education. You can see the slides that it's given a picture of 5 decades. In 50 years, in every 10 years, what Caritas did in the field of education. Caritas implements educational project all through of 5 decades, and every decades, new projects were added along with the existing ones. In the first decade from 71 to 1981, adult literacy, extension education program and mass education, and then basic education for disadvantaged community children, then Tibet, technical and vocational training and vocational training program were highlighted in that decade. In the second decade, from 81 to 91, in addition to the 3 above, value education and subject training for teachers were added. And this one was actually to involve the church-run education centers in the rural areas and in the indigenous community areas. So that was a huge intervention started from 1990. And in the third decade, from 91 to 2001, in addition to the above, training for teachers, including training support for Primary Teachers Institute, Bachelor of Education and Master of Education. Those are considered to be the skill development training for teachers. And then youth formation training, leadership and moral values. And then education support for student stipend, educational materials, and other co-curricular activities. As I said, that from 1990, the church institutions in the villages were included because Church of Bangladesh is usually involved in education, formal education, so to say. There are close to 1,000 centers, including pre-primary, primary, secondary, and tertiary level education. In the fourth decade, in addition to the above 30 years projects, the mother tongue-based multilingual education was added. This one I could tangle that after Vatican II, our church services and hymns, previously what we did in the church was all in Latin, but after Vatican II, in Bangladesh with this different indigenous communities also started their services and prayers and hymns in their own mother tongue. So that started from 70s onwards. And what we could introduce in our schools from long ago, we didn't do it, but it started actually from 2001 that in educational centers also, mother tongue-based multilingual education was started. And in the 5th decade, from 2011 and 2021, in addition to the above, establishing child protection mechanism in school was focused. With this 5 decades intervention, I could now point out some of the achievements that it was an inbuilt mechanism that in all Caritas interventions, empowerment through education was ensured. We have seen that adult education in the 70s, in the first decade was there. So adult education has a great role to ensure right to education for all. And Caritas provided different types of programs for adult education though faced so many challenges, and some parts I actually cannot see. Maybe they, okay, then. In spite of having some successes too, one of the great success was to establish Campaign for Popular Education, a collaboration of 10 leading NGOs and civil society federation, including Caritas. Its main aim was to promote basic education related activities. So it's still continuing as a spokesman for the country to deal with the government about basic education for children. In total, 62,895 persons, farmers, elderly, illiterate Bengali and ethnic community, rickshaw pullers, and non-Bengali Bihari were provided adult literacy through education centers. About 12 projects were in Caritas from 1972 till 1994. That time, actually, the last census that took place under Pakistan was in 1961, but 1971 census could not be done because of our liberation war. But that time, our literacy rate was only 16%. So that's why Caritas's intervention in basic education played a great role. Next. So this basic education for disadvantaged children tend to drop out from formal, primary, and secondary schools. Our constitutional obligation says establishing a uniform, mass-oriented, and universal could that be removed from the corner because I cannot see my points there? Is education and extending free and compulsory education to all children to such a stage as determined by law. However, education is not free in practice. There are still direct and indirect costs of education for families, and childhood poverty is a huge barrier for social and education in Bangladesh. You have seen above a few slides how much contribution Caritas Bangladesh has made to disadvantaged children's education for 5 decades. A total of 1.16 million children from disadvantaged and ethnic communities were provided basic education, pre-primary and primary, through 18 projects, covering 1,829 villages during 1972-2021 period. Actually, from 2013, a huge project was implemented by Caritas as a second chance education for out of school going children, especially in the very rural areas, in the hills and in our areas, and especially the indigenous community through support from European Union. So there were about 1,500 centers, and we served for 6 years almost. In total, 720,309 students received financial support to continue their education in secondary level. You can see some pictures of those rural centers where basic education were provided to children, and this is actually in Adivasi community. Next. Caritas at times were running 594 centers for basic education. And out of them, 237 schools were nationalized in 90s, and later another 6 educational centers were nationalized, where we had, I said, about 1,005 centers were run under European Union support. So 237 and another 6, 242 centers were nationalized. Government has nationalized under primary nationalization project. So this was a big achievement for Caritas and a recognition of Caritas in the basic education program also. Key attributes of Caritas Bangladesh's basic education of children project is CB reached there where there was no one have ever imagined to go to run schools. And that is in the indigenous community and in hill areas, actually. So it was a strong focus on empowerment of indigenous communities. Then Caritas also had an involvement in Tibet, technical and vocational education. And now it has been expanding in Bangladesh for last decade only. But Caritas started it right from the beginning, 50 years back, so to say. The contribution of Caritas Bangladesh is for 5 decades, just enormous, which is appreciated by the government and private sector as well. Caritas curriculum proved that CV's qualities of curriculum is good. CV ensures the quality of its delivery processes and also institutional and individual context factors to achieve the goal. Therefore, the Caritas Bangladesh graduates has a great demand for employment in the local market and factories and beyond. Moreover, a good number of trainees succeeded in creating self-employment, which actually eradicated poverty considerably. And their place in society, there is a taboo in society that vocational education is inferior to general education. Through these opportunities now, they prove that Tibet graduates can maintain their families well, and they are considered to be assets to the nation. And further, they are earning hard currencies through employment and in foreign countries. In all, 109,369 graduates graduated under 10 Tibet project, and among them, approximately 87,000 were self-employed during 1972 to 2021. So that is also a great achievement considered in the field of technical and vocational education. You can see some pictures of youth taking vocational and technical education. Teachers training. To impart quality education, quality teachers are needed in Bangladesh. Therefore, Caritas tried to arrange various skill development training for primary and secondary level teachers. In total, 12,944 teachers of primary and secondary level were provided training in different topics, namely subject-wise training, creative method, and early childhood development and counseling. And also a total of 1,451 teachers of primary and secondary level were provided stipend to undergo professional training such as PTI, certificate in education, and bachelor in education. I can add here that normally you can see some of the pictures of teachers training. Normally school doesn't have much fund to train their teachers. So therefore formation of teachers it was a priority for Caritas Education Project. And it started from 1990 and it's still continuing for last 30 years. Caritas is assisting the rural church-run institutions and the indigenous areas also. And it's also considered to be a great contribution of Caritas and together with the local church. Next, co-curricular activities. Caritas has started this program from 1990. Before that, most of the schools were operating singly, so to say. They didn't have much activities of inter-school program. So this was first started by Caritas. A total of 128,193 students participated in different events and activities, as for instance, inter-school cultural competition, inter-school debate competition, inter-school science competition, and like that. And also, as a whole, 701,981 copies of IC materials, namely news bulletin, then posters, leaflets, health magazine were distributed to different stakeholders. You can see some of the inter-school program pictures. Another intervention was very much helpful. That was mother tongue-based multilingual education. I spoke a little above. You can see the statistics here. Since 2010, on an average, 6,000 ethnic students per year have been getting mother tongue-based multilingual textbooks in 6 indigenous languages from grade pre-primary to grade 2. And here I can mention that the government of Bangladesh, after they have formulated the national education policy in 2010, only started thinking about indigenous community children to have multilingual education opportunities, but they could not do much. At present, government is providing only for 5 languages of Adivasi communities. But Caritas has started long ago and is still doing a lot for Adivasi communities in this sector. Also, under education program, there were 52 types of teaching aid posters, flashcards, books, and other materials suitable for primary and secondary level students in different subjects were developed and printed with sufficient number of copies for free distribution in church-administered schools for several years. It is estimated that 55,384 copies of posters have been distributed so far. Next. This was actually multilingual based education and display was organized where the publication done by Caritas and even other NGOs also shared. So that was a learning from other NGOs also, and they learned from Caritas experiences also. Then value education and leadership awareness program, it's mainly focusing the students, about 66,000 teachers, students, and guardian attended training programs and were given sessions on moral values related topics. You can see some pictures also. Caritas Bangladesh has been always playing a role as a development partner of the government, and every project is prepared with the government 5-year and long-term development plans, and also with the United Nations endeavors. For example, if we prepare the current 8 5-year plan of the government, we can see in the table below. Actually, I will just focus on serial number 6. That is human resource development. So our educational projects actually falls on government number 6 priority in the 8th development plan, where Caritas runs about 11 educational projects on education, quality of education, student and teacher skill development, and child protection and parents awareness programs. Next. So some best practices could be said that involving community people and other stakeholders, like Bangladesh Catholic Education Board members, diocesan officials were involved while planning project assessment and the local needs. Providing education opportunities to indigenous children in their own language, textbooks, in their own mother tongue through mother tongue-based multilingual approach, and appointing teachers from their community, arranging co-curricular activities, that is cultural, debate, science fair, and others, and then community-managed monitoring system in the village-based educational centers, in running the education centers depending on the demand of the communities. Then addressing the temporary issues in live sessions for the parents during COVID preparedness, wash and hygiene, and child rights and safeguarding things. Some limitations. Knowledge management. Caritas Bangladesh has not properly documented the achievement, the best practices of lesson learned, challenges, and other due to lack of knowledge management system. Caritas even do not have standard documentation preservation system, intellectual property protection policy, and others. Visibility and marking and publication. Education and technical education interventions are very limited focus to let its activities known to other people. It has limited materials, media reports, and others. Education specialist. ECD sector does not have an education specialist to explore government fund and new avenue of education. Study analysis policy. ECD sector rarely conducts research, impact studies, and policies for expansion of education initiative. Next. At the national level, we can say a big strength was the national education policy formulated in 2010, which gave a clear direction to what we ought to do in primary, pre-primary, secondary, and tertiary level education. Though we have got a policy in 2010, but this National Education Policy Act was not enacted. So because there is no education law, most of the education policies that were drafted and the roadmap given then could not be implemented still now. So that is also a big weakness that nationally we have. We got an education policy after 40 years of our independence, but still we haven't got an education law yet. One main sector is empowerment of women, poverty elevation through education. In Bangladesh, survey reveals that women produce about 45% of the population that consume, and women rarely receive recognition that they deserve for their work. And girls and women education varies. Women education, various of social and cultural barriers were removed and brought more opportunities for women. At the government and private levels, it is important to shed light on the considerable contribution of education, which has improved social status of women and could do more. At the government and private level, women are employed. Since the birth of Bangladesh, NGOs, including Caritas Bangladesh, had relentlessly making efforts to organize women along with the men in order to make them empowered and self-reliant. One example would be Korti Jute Works, where about 45,000 women in producing jute works, jute goods. The women have now valuable place in the society and in their families too. Some recommendation: extending moral value training, early childhood development program, and child safeguarding interventions in all educational centers. Then establishing strong network at national and subnational, regional and global forums, working groups, platforms, advocacy and lobbying groups, effective monitoring, evaluation, accountability and learning, and knowledge management. CB cannot ignore fulfilling the rights of education to specially challenged children, children from ultra-poor families, and Adivasi indigenous children living in hills and haor areas, which they deserve. In conclusion, I would add that I assume you have got a clear idea of Caritas Bangladesh's contribution to nation building and development through education. Also, what a specific contribution of Caritas Bangladesh made that has created a huge impact on the community and overall development. Besides hardware support, Caritas' contribution to capacity building, community mobilization, and empowerment through education. Caritas Bangladesh also initiated many innovative ideas, techniques, and approaches. Those influenced the government, sometimes even to the revision of some national policies. Thank you for your patience.
Thank you, sir, for your very attractive and informative keynotes on the contribution of Caritas Bangladesh for empowerment through education. So now, floor is open for the participants. If you have any question or feedback, you are requested to raise hand. We have seen the hand of Mrs. Farzana Sharmin. So you are requested to raise your question or share.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity. Actually, I want to add an intervention. I know that we have 14 daycare centers under Ankur project. Please add the intervention of daycare center in this presentation. That's it.
Thank you. Thank you for your feedback. And I have seen that hand of Ms. Snigdha Mou. So you are requested to raise your question.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity. As we all know, Jubilee is not only the time for celebration, it's also time to look back and evaluate ourselves. So through the presentation, we learned that we did a lot of for education perspective. I want to share from the experience from the field. We assume that when family fall in any danger or any vulnerability, they stop their children's education and engage them in work. The scenario is quite difficult for the girls because parents arrange early marriage for them to reduce the burden. So maybe it's time to consider a combinational content as education have direct impact on income. So we should focus on increasing income opportunity of the family members with education support. So we should consider some income generating support for the family with education support like stipend, education materials, training, awareness program to ensure more sustainable development and continuation of children's education. Thank you.
Thank you, Sigda, for your questions and feedback. Actually, this keynote is given on emphasis on contribution of Caritas Bangladesh of last 5 decades, that what we have done and what are the impacts. So so far you have proposed that is the new area. Of course, in future we will consider that. Thank you for raising the question. And now we have seen the hand raise of Mr. Deepak Ekka. So Deepak Ekka, you are requested to raise your question or feedback.
Thank you, sir, for giving me the opportunity. As you know that through Aloghat projects funded by European Union and other projects, we have run some specialized education for the children with special needs. So we may include this information that how many children they have get opportunity to learn or to get education through Braille and sign language. We may include this information to this report, I think. Over, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Deepak, to raising a very important issue. I think that the keynote speaker has noted this. At the end of question answer sessions, I think he will share his feedback. Now, Mr. Ratan Poddar.
Thank you. I like to actually highlight one point here, that is Caritas always actually believe on integration, one sector to another sector. So for this education sector, I actually want to share one example, that is infrastructure is actually very much important for any institution. When we started feeder school, the infrastructure was not that much strong. But when we built cyclone shelter, there was opportunity for construction of cyclone shelters after 91 cyclone mostly. So we considered to build the cyclone shelters in the compound of the feeder school so that they can use round the year. So that point is very much important, I think, that is how we collaborate, that integrated the one program to another program. And this, I have seen many schools, feeder schools are now nationalized. So this is one of the factors. The infrastructure was there. Even the local people donated the land, and over that land we constructed cyclone shelter. So now it is national school. So it is a great achievement actually. My request is to actually, if it is possible, to incorporate this message in the report. Thank you. Over.
Thank you. We are running behind time. So I think that we can finish here our question and answer session for this keynote. I think that we will get another chance, not this session, but in another session. So excuse us for not giving all of you chance to raise your questions or feedback, because we are running behind time. So at this moment, I'd like to request, I'd like to see the, give you the floor to the our keynote speaker. If he has some final words, he can share. Respected Jyoti sir.
Actually, under Caritas program and also the government program, now we can say that almost the inclusion of all children in school-aged children are now in educational centers. And also that the disparity between male and female students in primary and in secondary schools are achieved. but the quality of education is still not at hand. So there we have a lot of initiative to be taken, and the present Caritas interventions also is contributing to this end, that how we could have reached the quality in education. Thank you.
Thank you. So we are happy that today not only member from Caritas Bangladesh, but many of our CIMO's representatives are joined with us. And we are so happy that our President of Caritas Asia, our ex-executive director, Honorable Dr. Benedict Rosario is with us. So we like to take this opportunity to hear from him. So now I would like to request Dr. Benedict Rosario to share his discussion or feedback on 3 keynotes what already been presented. So sir, you are requested to share your feedback on the keynotes.
Thank you very much, George Shuklesh Costa. Your Excellencies, respected and dear participants. First of all, I would congratulate Caritas Bangladesh for taking up the studies to focus on 3 different and specific areas of Caritas Bangladesh contribution and contribution to nation building during the last 50 years. Studies done have shown what are our achievements have been, and we could be proud of that. We can be joyful of that, and we can also review our relevance and renew our commitment for the future. As a result of these findings and inspiration from the past. Secondly, I would also extend my sincere appreciation to you all who have joined this webinar. It shows how interested you are for Caritas activities and how dear to you is Caritas. So thank you once again to all the participants. I also express my sincere thanks to Caritas Asia colleagues who are collaborating for this webinar. Three different presentations on 3 different studies have been done. Caritas achievements are huge during these 50 years. It is not possible to document and list in these 3 small studies. Once I proposed that there should be number of PhD study, MPhil study on Caritas activities. But despite that, the study team, 3 different study team have done wonderful job. I congratulate them. Now, a few comments, like if I look at the title of the study, so one has to do justice to the title of the study. What I mean is that we cannot bring all achievement under these 3, even if we want to. So I would request all the 3 study team to give careful look and review their findings that these are in line with their title of the study. Also, there are specific objectives and also objectives. So while presenting this study it is also important to write and present the report as per objectives of the study, at least relate to the objectives of the study. With this, I don't mean that that has not been done. In many cases, that was done, but there are some cases, I think there is a scope to improve the writing style. Also say, in some studies, there are contents. If you compare the contents of the study with the objectives, it doesn't mess. So please do that. In some study, the definition was discussed. The word or terminology were in the study title were discussed. Some in full, some in partially. So it is important that for a particular study, the word or terminology or phrase you use, what do you mean by this in this study? Like I said the word faith. Faith means trust, faith means confidence, faith means religion. It has also other meaning. So empowerment, there is some reference, but for what purpose and for what intention this word was used? Is participation in decision making or participation in economic arena or mobility? Which area? So I think it will be important to mention at the beginning that in which purpose this phrase or word are used particularly for this study. So this is kind of a general comments for all three, and some are almost done and some need to be careful redoing. If I go to study individually, say the role of Caritas Bangladesh in the evolution of agriculture and environmental protection. You see the environmental protection is very narrow. In the study, what is written is wider. So I don't know. It is not only environmental protection, so many other things, livelihood, whole issue of ecology. Ecology also is not only, so ecology and environment, they are different because there are also social environment. So I think this should be carefully looked into. And under this study, I see there are gaps. So that should be looked into, like one of the biggest project with the collaboration of Bangladesh government was first land distribution. Even you have not visited that area, it was all over Bangladesh, and it was government land distribution program that was integrated program with housing, land, and input. It is not there because it is part of agriculture, it's part of livelihood, and it is part of environment also. And there was DRP, drought recovery program. It is also agriculture because pond was there, pond water was used for irrigation, pond water was used for domestic purpose, and also plantation and other things. It was a huge project. It was innovation by Caritas Bangladesh. Later on, government started it and government scaled up it. So first land distribution, drought recovery program, and another important program was rural works program. Under that, we had pond cultivation, pond excavation and excavation, and where there was a fish culture. So there was also water irrigation component there. Pump tubewell were there. Road building was there. And the road building was accompanied by tree plantation. So those I didn't see. One innovation for poultry by Caritas Bangladesh was cold chain for vaccination. Hundreds of flags, special type of flags were bought and vaccine were reached to the doorstep of the families. So another is hatchery. In the private sector, hatchery was done first by Caritas Bangladesh. And for this, Caritas had to employ expert from Sri Lanka. Even team from Vietnam came. So I think there are some other things to add in this area because there are a number of innovation there. If I go to the contribution of in the field of disaster resilience, then you have to define what do we mean by disaster resilience, and when did we start using this, and why? And then DRR is a new phenomenon, new word we have been using, but before that we use preparedness. So what did we do to the preparedness? And for this sector, I think for this study, we have documented, we have analyzed the hardware only. We did not touch that much software. Software is very, very important for resilience because it deals with people's knowledge, attitude, and behavior. Caritas Bangladesh invested a lot of money for software, sensitization, community mobilization, hundreds of trainings program, number of projects. So I think this should be also touched and added. And then if we consider that we are successful, we have any achievement, it was because community contribution and community participation. My colleague Ratan has mentioned that the way people contributed land for school, cyclone shelters, they did the management, they did all the work. So in that respect, the role of volunteers. In some places, we had only one or two staff, but there were many volunteers starting from the religious leader up to the villagers, farmers. So I think the role of volunteers and also this issue of software sensitization should be there. The first project with the government we did was CPP, Cyclone Preparedness Program, most important program with Red Cross. I think that collaboration should be also mentioned. There are other things. I think time is not enough to tell all this. I go to the last one. Education, very important sector, but there was a big debate whether Caritas Bangladesh would do anything in the formal education. There was a study done because there is Episcopal Commission for Education. There is a separate commission with the Bishops' Conference. So Caritas was initially allowed not to do. Caritas was only adult education. So there is a story from adult education to feeder school or basic preschool program that started with Dinajpur. Under this program, there were a lot of adult literacy centers and adult villagers were educated. And there was a ceremony that they all graduated after 6 months of adult literacy training. Then one gentleman, he asked, when will you come again? Because after 3-4 years, there will be some adults who will be uneducated, not literated. So he'll have to come again. Please come again. Then the realization came that only adult education will not be the answer. We need to start with the children. So the school, feeder school, not to feed, but feeding in the national school system started in Dinesburg with Mr. Paul Charua Tigya and with the funding from Holland, now Netherlands. So these are the stories. So in the study, usually we can include 3 questions. What, why, how? So all this study, they did extremely well for what? What are the contributions? But it is important to tell also why and how. There are somehow, but can be elaborated. And my last point will be, and this is the, I think, one of the important point in relation to human resources development, that how ETR has contributed, education to reality has contributed. And it is not only Bangladesh, it is all over. The education system was STEM. STEM means science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Until now, emphasis have been given on these 4: science, technology, engineering, mathematics, meaning head and hands, not heart. So now the new education system, STEM, STEM, will come STEAM, STEAM. Science will be there, technology will be there, engineering will be there, mathematics will be there, but arts meaning morality, humanity, tolerance, literature, all these will be coming and added to, so that all development will be integral, so that there will be integral human development and people will be more human, more ethical, and with more morality. So I think more can be said for our efforts on interfaith dialogue, peace education, human rights education project. All these are important. But I again congratulate Caritas Bangladesh as well as 3 study team who have worked hard. And this is the beginning. I think this trend and this study and research will be continued in the near future, because we need to know and we need to also let other people know for inspiration, for celebration, and for motivation for the future. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you, sir, for your encourageable remarks as well as very pertinent and valuable feedback. Particularly at the last part you have mentioned from STEM to STEAM. Actually, that is very encourageable, and we will try our level best to take care of all of your feedbacks and hopefully to work with you also with this feedback. So thank you very much. Now I'd like to request Ari to take over my responsibility for the closing side. So Ari, are you here?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you, Suklash. Thank you so much for successfully moderating this session of inspiring presentations and also lively discussion from the speakers and also from participants. Now we have come to the end of this webinar, and I would like to invite Mr. Sebastian Rosario, the Executive Director of Caritas Bangladesh, to give the closing remark. Sebastian, the floor is yours.
Thank you, dear Ari. Thank you so much for your nice moderation. And also thank you, Suklash, for your wonderful moderation of the sessions. Your Excellency, Most Reverend Bishop James Roman Boiragi, President of Caritas Bangladesh, Honorable Caritas Asia President, Sir Dr. Benedict Alodi Rosario, Honorable CI Secretary General, Mr. Aloysius John, respected Caritas Asia Regional Coordinator, Mr. Jar Gomez, respected Caritas directors and colleagues, and distinguished participants. Greetings to you all, especially the greetings of the Golden Jubilee from Caritas Bangladesh. This webinar was a part of our year-long different events of the Jubilee, and we are happy that we could make it possible to organize this webinar with the support of Caritas Asia and all who guided and accompanied us during our preparation. We have celebrated the year-long Jubilee with the community peoples all over the country, with whom we worked for so long in different areas, our working areas like districts, sub-districts, and at our regional level, to share our joy of our love and service, reflect on the contribution of Caritas Bangladesh made during the last 50 years. We try to identify most needed areas to intervene in the coming years, especially in the context of changed national and global situation, social, political, economical, and so on. You have heard from the keynote speakers on the contributions of Caritas Bangladesh in nation building. Thanks to all the three keynote speakers, Dr. Habibur Rahman Khandekar, Mr. Ghulam Moinuddin, Sir Mr. Jyoti Gomez, who is also eminent educationist and Caritas former director of Caritas Education Program, Disaster Management and Development Department. All these three keynotes were organized and presented very professionally, captured most of the contributions of Caritas Bangladesh in agriculture, disaster responses, and education and empowerment. I would like to reiterate that we responded during natural calamities and man-made calamities. It was about 95 natural and 16 human-induced disasters. We have about 53 housing models, low-cost house models, midterm shelters, and we have huge contribution through our education and vocational training. Socio-economic development of war widows, women, forest people, we follow the community-led approach. Our initiatives start with the response after any disaster. From response, we start recovery and rehabilitation, and then we initiate development projects so that when we come back, the people are sustainable financially and in terms of their empowerment. Recent years, we have started asset-based community development approach. That approach speak about the starting development with the assets the community people have. The impact of those activities was huge in the lives of the people, especially the poor, disadvantaged, and marginalized people of the country in their socio-economic development and empowerment and to ensuring dignity. However, besides those, CB has also contributed in many other areas. In the initial years of Caritas Bangladesh, for huge need to address the huge needs of the nation, Caritas actually also helped development of establishment of other NGOs and capacitate them. NGO, Caritas also formed NGO networks to work together, avoiding duplicacy and taking the best model and practices, which is more efficient and effective for the improvement of the people. Health and care, natural family planning, HIV/AIDS, peace building, capacity development of staff, Caritas' own staff and the partners organization. During the last 1 year, we have observed how cordially our colleagues participated in this celebration. Our colleagues and the community people responded, supported to our programs with their own financial contributions. Some of them were contribution of staff and the community people from their own income and staff from their salaries. To distribute warm clothes, we distributed blanket to 141 households, provided stipends for the poor and meritorious students for 1 year. The number of students were about 25. Provided new houses for poor families. These were semi-paka buildings. Following the design the government is constructing for the poor families. Repairing support, house repairing support for 55 households. Distribution of wheelchair for the differently able persons. That intervention was for teacher salaries and teaching materials for community managed schools. Those were really struggling to run the schools with their own supports. So 5 schools are being supported with the teacher salary and teaching materials for 1 year. In doing this, a total of Taka BDT 4.1 million was already spent. All these initiatives have highly encouraged us to work more dedicatedly with love and compassion. We are thankful to the community people and the staff of Caritas Bangladesh. It reminds me the phrase that the poor, which says the poor also has something to give. We got a lot of supports during last 1 year. We are thankful to the Development Alliance and Caritas colleagues. We look forward to having more supports from them and others in the coming days. Today, we also thank Caritas Bangladesh President, who reminded us who is and should be the employees of Caritas by his inspirational speech. I believe most of us have been inspired with his speech. I express my thanks to the Caritas Asia President who has just spoke on the 3 presentations. He gave his own reflection and also provided inputs to update the study reports structure-wise and also as well as content-wise. This is really a great support for us. And we believe that this report, before publication, we will incorporate those inputs. As you said, sir, that Caritas should also work in the fields of formal education. We are thinking of the upcoming days, challenging days, where in which situation we might have funding crisis. We already have 3 trusts. Among those, 2 are very much active in serving poor people from their annual surplus. So we hope that more social enterprise will be taken up, which will also cover education. You have also spoke about the STEAM system or approach of education. we really feel, every one of us, we feel that nowadays we observe, we notice the lack of moral values among the people. So value education and also formation of heart to become more human person is very much essential. I thank the CI Secretary General, Mr. Aloysius John. It was really a great inspiration for us that you joined from CI, Caritas Internationalis, and also other part of the globe. This is far away. You represents whole Caritas, global Caritas. This is a huge inspiration for us. You have rightly mentioned that CB, since its beginning, journeying with the poorest for establishing dignity and fighting for the dignity of the poor. It was really wonderful stating by you that caring, defending, and accompanying the poorest is the prime objectives of Caritas Bangladesh, and we are doing so. Thank you so much for this acknowledgement. I also thank Mr. Jar Gomez, the Caritas Asia Regional Coordinator, for your support from Caritas Asia in organizing this webinar and inviting our Asian and global partners. Also collecting the greetings for our most inspirational Caritas International presidents. I will not find anyone who can say, I don't like his speech, which you have managed. We are very much thankful to you. You have also managed greetings from Cardinal Charles Bo, FABC President, and the Bishop Kikosi, the immediate past Caritas Asia President. We are very much grateful to you for this wonderful surprise for us. Thanks for acknowledging the contribution of Caritas Bangladesh. I'm also thankful to the Catholic Bishops' Conference of Bangladesh and all the bishops, cardinal of Bangladesh, the first cardinal of Bangladesh, for always providing us guidance and inspiring us to work wholeheartedly with our love and respect for the people, poor people of the community. I express deep gratitude to our former leaders. We are here for them today. We are here today for them, actually. They had huge contributions to forming, establishing, and bringing Caritas at this level of today. My profound gratitude to the directors, former directors, officers, employees, and all the supporters of Caritas Bangladesh. I'm very much thankful to our partners, the donors, Caritas Internationalis networks members, CIMOs, Caritas Asia, former Caritas a PhD. I express my thanks. Thanks those who spoke and supplemented after presentation of the keynote at today's webinar. I thank the moderators, Ari and Shuklesh, Soyon and others, Emmanuel Soyon and others who worked very hard to arrange this webinar. All the committee members of Caritas Bangladesh Golden Jubilee, they are tirelessly working at this moment. We organized another 2 webinars for the international, our diaspora family members. One was for Canada and another was for Australia. We have been really very much encouraged with their support and recommendations. Above all, the Almighty God, who always takes care of us and guide us, the Holy Spirit. I express my thanks. There is nothing to thank our Lord God, who is always taking care of us. in different ways from our mother womb. I am very much grateful to every one of you. And with these remarks, I conclude this webinar today and wish you all the very best in the upcoming days. Thank you all and bye.
Thank you, everyone. Can we open our video so we can take one photograph? John, you are requested to take the photograph.
Yes, sir.
From the gallery.
It will take time because there are 3 groups.
Do we need to smile?